Hey, it's Aaron from GameEnthus.com. In this video, I'm going to be talking about a game called Lunar Rush. Lunar Rush is a 1 to 4 player economic-based space Euro that plays in about 45 to 75 minutes. Lunar Rush was designed by Stephen Skippy Brown with art from Viktor, Kolodiazhnyi, and Alex Pei. Lunar Rush is also published by Dead Alive Games. As you just saw, there's quite a bit in the Lunar Rush box. Let me explain to you what it is and how it works. Lunar Rush is somewhat of a self-described gold rush game that happens to be taking place in between Earth and the moon. So this is the board here. The game is playable from 1 to 4 players, as I mentioned earlier. Players to start off with 25 gigacredits, which is up in the upper left corner. And this is the yellow and green player, so the markers are in the upper left corner at 25 gigacredits. Gigacredits are your money as well as your points. So you're basically using your money and points in order to bid on who does certain actions first. Initiative order 1 through 4, spaceports coming back to Earth. Initiative order allows the player who wins to basically bid on the port they want to go to. So there are 3 different types of ports. You have the fast launch port, the medium launch port, and the slow launch port. The trade-off is fast is just like I said, fast, it's quick. And you can carry 2 astronauts for each one. The medium launch works in 2 steps, so you go from here to here and then to the moon, but you can only carry 5 items. And then the slow launch allows you to carry 9 things, but the trade-off is it's slow, so it has 3 steps before it actually gets to the moon, which can be strategic because, like I said, the difference between having 2 items and 9 items is huge. It's just, well, the result is more delayed if you're taking 3 steps to get there, but you're also carrying orders of magnitude more things to the moon. Leaving Earth, you are carrying things like habitation parts, as well as tech cubes and advanced machinery. I believe the tech cubes are blue and the advanced machinery is red. If I'm wrong, oh boy. So whoever is the last place in the initiative order going from the Earth to the moon will be first, and going into the Earth spaceport to go from the moon back to the Earth. So that's these routes right here. You have a fast, you have a medium, and you have a 3-step slow as well. So for the fast launch routes / lanes coming from the moon back to Earth, you can carry 1 item, and that can be 1 astronaut or 1 other thing. One of those things are on the Earth marketplace here, because the resources you're sending aren't really worth a whole lot. You can have tons of habitation parts, tons of advanced machinery, and tons of tech cubes. You can just go up, and we'll get into how those resources work into the modules in just a second. But coming back, you're trying to bring back precious things. You're trying to bring back things like Lunarrush gems, Lunarium bars, Lunarium ore, and Lunarrush shards. So in the marketplace here, there's actually 3 marketplaces in the game. The 2551 is the one recommended for beginning players, but there are some others, and they're double-sided based on player count. So you have the 2150 marketplace and then the 2149 marketplace. So there are different marketplaces, and it changes the value of the gems, the bars, and the ores and the shards. There's only 7 full turns in the game, or 7 rounds, if you will. So you really don't have a whole lot of time to figure things out. You have to get supplies and resources to the moon and use them to build things while you're on it, and to mine gems, bars, ore, and shards, and then get back to Earth and then sell them. And the first to sell them is going to be selling them for the most amount of money, which is furthest to the left. And as things get sold, they're going to move down and be sold for less. However, there is a bit of a mechanic. There's a refresh section to the right of each of the marketplaces, and based on how many things sell, some things sort of bounce back. So some things can bounce back a lot, like up to 4 spaces, whereas things that are worth the most, like the Lunarrush gems, Lunarrush bars, they're not going to bounce back quite as much, but some of that value can be retained, which is important because this is largely an economic game where you're trying to figure out what's going to be worth the most and how much of that item you can get back to Earth in order to sell. In terms of the actual boards that green and yellow are going to be using, I'll show you the red one. Let's go and zoom in a little bit closer here. So up here, you're going to have your life support, which are going to start off on 6, and your energy, which starts off on 0. Everybody's going to start that way. And the initial things you're able to build are going to be the basic habitation module, in which you're going to put 3 of your astronauts on it. So you're going to start off with 3 astronauts already on the moon, but you have 7 more that can go to the moon in order to get more things. So there's definitely a worker placement element to the game. Everybody's going to start off with 6 basic modules, and there's 2 on the side. I'll get into those in just a second. But the basic habitation module allows you to have space for your astronauts to live when they're working, not working on the moon. Basic life support allows you to augment your life support systems to keep more astronauts alive. Basic ore mine allows you to mine the lunarium ore. The basic R&D lab allows you to mine the Lunathis gems. The basic R&D lab allows you to generate more tech and more advanced machinery, as well as more habitation cubes. The basic solar array allows you to generate just straight energy. And then the basic shard mine allows you to mine the Lunathis shards, which is the least valuable resource you can bring back and sell, but you can still come back and sell it. On the right edge, you have the Lunathis manufactory, and you have the Lunarium refinery, which can be built for the cost you see in the rectangle there. Each player is also going to have a set of cards which have intermediate and advanced. Intermediate are blue versions of the modules they already have. So the intermediate solar array allows you to build 3 units of energy, whereas the default one only allows you to build 2. The cost to upgrade is at the bottom of the board in each module. And then the cost to upgrade the intermediate solar array to the advanced solar array is on the bottom of the card. And then the advanced is the final form. As you can see, it basically doubles what you're allowed to do with the basic one. Down here at the bottom, I have 8 gold modules, and there's a nice healthy stack of gold modules. Some just offer straight up points, but they are quite expensive to build. The scenic moon train costs quite a bit to get done, but it's worth 25 gigacredits, which is kind of cool. But at least initially really focused on the life support and the energy, because if an astronaut is on the moon and if at the end of that particular portion of the turn, you are not able to house them in the habitation module, because maybe you have 6 astronauts there, but you only have the basic habitation module, that's not going to be good. And any dead astronauts are going to cost you 25 gigacredits. So the flow of the game, everybody's going to start off with a somewhat similar setup. Everybody starts off with 1 hibernation part, and these 2 cards sort of designate ×1 and ×2. So just in case you're in a situation where you're running out of resources, if you have this on the blue card, it means you have 2 of them. So, but you only need 1 actual physical thing to represent it. These are the cards that you would bid with, 1 through 5. You cannot bid with the same number on consecutive rounds of bidding. So you can't bid with 5 twice in a row. That's just not what you're able to do. And then these cards here, actually what you're going to be using to place and then put the items you're taking with you. I should also mention that when you are bidding, these cards represent how much you're bidding in terms of your giga credits. So in rounds 1 through 4, it's just face value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you get to 5, the bids double. So 5 is now worth 10 giga credits. 1 is now worth 2. Once you get to the 6th round, you can no longer take the slow launch. That gets closed. And there's a small deck to represent a closed launch pad. I guess you shuffle these out and take one and pick it. And if somebody picked it, they would immediately gain the item on it. It just means that it's closed and nobody can actually take it. Only because once you get to the 6th turn, you don't have 2 more turns with which to actually have the slow ship make it to the moon or back to the Earth. So Very, very important there. Once you get to the 6th round, the bids triple. So everything is worth 3 times as much as the card says. And then once you get to the 7th round, 7th turn, the bids increase by 5 times. So bidding 5 is now 25 giga credits. Bidding 1 is now 5. There are some cards that can mitigate, some module cards that can mitigate what you're spending. So you have some options there, but everybody can't take advantage of that. But then again, if you're so far ahead, maybe you can risk spending a couple more giga credits to make sure you get to the fast or medium to get your stuff to the moon, back to the Earth, etc. The points that are on the actual gold modules and the advanced, the intermediate and advanced are end-game scoring, whereas selling items in the marketplace would immediately increase your value on the score tracker that's going around the board. This is not a part of the board. These are just actual cards that I had to find a way to fit into frame. That's the flow of the game. You are making decisions on what you're able to take, how fast you can get it there, and then making sure that you don't overcommit by sending up maybe too many astronauts, but you haven't augmented your habitation to house them. You haven't augmented your life support in order to keep them alive. If you're really solely focused on mining and getting things, you might end up losing a lot of the giga credits you earn, what you've been selling, because you haven't kept everyone alive. So it's a balance, but you're trying to keep up with your opponents as well. And that's the rush part of it. It's really driven by marketplace. And that is how Lunar Rush works. So that was Lunar Rush, which has quite a bit in the box. The game also comes with some expansions. So you have a beginner expansion with this green backing here that also says beginner. Beginner sort of outlines the turns you're going to take and the actions you're going to do on them. Even if you're playing a 4-player game when everybody's new to it, this is a great tool to teach everyone how the game works. So once you get to a point where maybe you don't want to follow what these say, you don't have to, but it's here. There's also faction cards, which change some of the pricing, some of the actions, in order to sort of give it a little more theme to what you're doing and why you're doing it based on the faction that you're in. There's also some challenge cards, which change some rules and change some of the parts of the game. Just as an example, there's one called Bad Planning. In this one, you start the game off with 4 astronauts already on the moon. Typically you have 3, but then you only have 5 other astronauts on Earth to actually send to the moon. So, one of challenge cards. In addition to all of that, you have a deck of Moon Wonder cards, which are other things you could purchase in order to get giga credits and earn giga credits. Which brings me to my actual review. I do think Lunar Rush really, really knows its audience. People who are into a Euro, a space Euro, and economics, this is your game. Like, your ship has come in. Like, there's so much in this game. Like I just said, I showed you just sort of how the flow of the game actually works, and I didn't even get into all the expansions really during the actual gameplay. There's a lot in this box. There's also a co-op mode that you can use a deck to dictate how an AI bids for initiative. So, and work with someone against the AI. There's a ton in the box for Lunar Rush. There's a lot of content, a lot of good content. That being said, I was not really sure that Lunar Rush is something that was going to be in my wheelhouse. I like worker placement. I'm okay with some bidding. I like the idea of pick up and deliver. I like the economic portion of it and selling things, but maybe selling too many things increases the value, so you should pivot and focus on something else. I like all those things. It's also a tight game. Like, you have 7 turns, so you don't have a lot of wiggle room in order to figure out what you're doing. You have to plan something and then be able to pivot and hopefully get the best out of it in a relatively short amount of time. I'm saying a lot of words. Did I like Lunar Rush? Yes, I did. I liked it more than I thought I would. I was very pleasantly surprised. There's a ton of content in this game. And when you break it down to its smaller parts, the flow is interesting. And it really comes down to the economics. I like that. I mean, Lunar Rush, there's a ton in this box. A lot of mining to do. A lot of things to unearth. Unmoon, I guess. But yeah, I dig. Anyway, I'm Aaron from GameEnthus.com. Take care, stay safe, and be blessed.